Welcome. Welcome to our very first season of Life on Track, where this TV show is all about helping you get into the driver's seat of your own life. Not my life, not Martha's life, your own life, personally and professionally. So I'm your host, Erin Ley, and I'd love to get right into this because we have this beautiful guest here today, Martha Adams. And I want to read her bio because I don't want to leave anything out. She's extraordinary. So Martha Adams has dedicated her professional career to helping her clients achieve their own personal meaning to financial empowerment. I love what she did with that, through a financial conversation that is accessible, approachable, and applicable. After a successful 15-year career building her independent wealth management practice, Martha has taken her experience out of the boardroom to share her proven wealth building techniques and help as many people as she can. Martha is a certified financial planner, media personality, international best-selling author of this amazing book that I love, and keynote speaker who passionately believes in everyone's ability to create positive and impactful change in their money story. Welcome. Welcome to the show, Martha.
Thank you so much, Erin. I feel so welcomed, and I feel that warm hug all the way here.
Yes, I love you. And I loved meeting you at Secret Knock. You spoke and you were extraordinary, and I love what you're doing. We just spoke about it briefly offline, but I love what you're doing with regard to helping people, obviously, as a financial planner, but understanding how the whole inner world, our thoughts, our feelings, and all of this is so connected to money. But before we get into that, the first question that I ask every expert, I've been doing summits for years, and now this TV show, this is the first season of this. How did you get into doing what you're doing and why? I love that question.
So my how is because of the why. And the why for me was that I always believed in something different. And I believed in that something different because I was gifted with opportunities to have always been different. I was different in my household. I was different in the community that I grew up in, whether that was the town I grew up in, the school I went to, my church community. I was certainly always different. And so, I was looked at in a lot of ways as the black sheep. And I embraced that. I learned to embrace that. I, in fact, taught myself to view that as my asset instead of my liability. And so what did that end up doing? I ended up being different in the industry I was a part of, in the financial industry. And so I started 2 degrees in, mind you. And so I have my commerce degree and I have my education degree because I believe that those two things go together. So I was not a traditionalist in either of them. And then here I was starting as an independent, meaning that I didn't have the large name backing of any particular company or group of companies. And I also didn't have their financial backing. What I did have, and especially as a woman in my early 20s who looked different, spoke differently, act differently. And it's all because what I did have was the most powerful thing. I operated from the inside out. I had belief in something different. Yeah. And so that is my why that fueled and powered my how.
I love this. I love this. And I shared with you briefly, I worked on Wall Street. I had the Series 763, the insurance license, power lunches in my early 20s. I talk about this all the time. And I was so superficial, and as much as I thought I was ahead of the game with things, like my Chanel bag in the house out in the Hamptons with my friends, I was so behind the 8 ball with regard to being aligned with who I truly was. You know what I mean? Who I truly am. Back then, this was 1991. I wish I had a book like yours, like this Cleopatra's Riches. I wish I had a book like that because it took a cancer diagnosis for me to learn about the inner world. And I want everybody listening, everybody watching, Martha is going to tell you and teach you how to become the best version of you financially in the most powerful way I've ever seen. And I've been doing this since the late 80s. You know what I mean? I was working on Wall Street in the late 80s before the whole Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas thing. Like it was a little different than it is now. But I want to get into this with you because what you're teaching and speaking about is that powerful. So the first thing I want to address is let's discuss why money is so much more than just math, which has to do with this.
You know, in so many ways, we are taught that money is about math. Managing money in our lives is about math. I mean,
Right.
you saw it on Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it throughout your life. And that's part of why we accept that idea. Everything is an idea that we either accept or reject. And our life experiences are what's going to influence that, right? So why is money so much more than math? What is this idea about? Well, if you picture yourself and you start to visualize, I know that you are incredible when it comes to visualization. You're incredible with so many things, and certainly when it comes to visualization. And you start to picture a life experience. You pull that up on the screen of your mind. And I'd love to invite your community to do the same. Regardless of what it is, regardless of its significance in your life, it could be small, medium, large, whatever it may be. Thing is, money was there. It played a role in some way, shape, or form. And along with that came our emotional associations. So where's the gap then? Because here's this idea of money is so much more than math, but all we're taught is that money is all about math.
Right.
So because we've had those life experiences and yet all we've heard is money simply math, we have this gap now in the way that we feel. But in our conversation today, we're starting to introduce a different idea, one that we can really see ourselves in because you're central to it. And that's what I believe in the financial conversation. That's why I believe it's so much more than just math. I believe it's central to you. A relationship with money is a relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. And that's what makes the person so much more powerful with regard to how they attract money, how they utilize money, how they spend money. You know, I love the law of reciprocity, you know, and just, you know, with regard to money also. So let's talk about that. In your book, you speak about the pyramid of financial influences.
Yeah.
So I love this. Let's talk about that.
Oh, Erin, you've done your homework. Look at you. So what's the pyramid of financial influences? Well, we talked about, let's build on our conversation because we talked about how money really is a human experience.
Yes.
Right? You've experienced it throughout your life, throughout the layers of your life. And that's why I built the pyramid of financial influences, because it shows you and really connects you to your money story. A story that started with the piece that we generally default to, which is our household growing up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first layer. But here's the thing, even within that layer, there's more to the story. Because in a lot of ways, we'll accept messaging that our parents gave us at par value, right? So let's throw in a Wall Street term just for the fun of it, right? So we'll accept that as is. And yet, that messaging didn't just show up overnight. It has an origin story. You have an origin story.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're into a very different picture. Now we're starting to connect with the richness of your story. Now, your influences didn't just stop there, just as mine didn't stop there, right?
Right.
As I shared with you about the community I grew up in, the schools I went to, the church or religious groups that you could have been a part of, right?
Yep.
All of these experiences are connected to the money messaging that we internalized. And then it started to, increase as well as we grew up. And now we're starting to be exposed to societal messaging. Our views on the class system, for example, the idea of, who money belongs to, who gets to have money in their lives, or what are they like, what does money do to people. These are all ideas around societal messaging that we've internalized. Now, here's the thing. Our story doesn't stop there, right? We just haven't had a moment yet to connect to the messaging that we've internalized. And so what happens? Now we're growing up and we're starting to be involved in our committed romantic relationships, right? And then what ends up happening? Well, money becomes one of the most contentious issues, or the sources of conflict.
Yes.
And wrapped around all of those experiences are our emotions, the way that we feel. But in the pyramid of financial influences, I suggest something different when it comes to our emotions. I suggest that they are our asset versus our liability. Because in understanding them, it brings us a unique sense of self-awareness and understanding. That's the pyramid of financial influences.
I love it. I love you. So for everybody listening, how can they take, let's say a lot of people have self-limiting beliefs around money, that they can't make. I had this years ago, like the thought of making $1 million was so foreign, even though I grew up in a wealthy area where it was millionaires and billionaires. I just thought, I actually lived in Brooklyn until I was in New York, in Brooklyn until I was 16, and then moved to a place called Garden City, Long Island, which is very wealthy. So I've seen everything. I've lived everything. And I've seen that, like, there's just as many happy people, in Brooklyn, and there was just as many happy people in Garden City, and the same thing with miserable people, like in both areas. So I think it's like you're saying, it has to do with your money story. And I think there's so much energy tied to money that I think also how you make your money, brings that kind of energy to you. Because I know a lot of unhappy people that are skimming corners and, getting over, with regard to making money, and they're not very happy. So can you speak into what they can do with their self-limiting beliefs, and also how they're making their money so that they can feel better?
I love this, because we're talking about so many different things here. We're talking about our beliefs, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about self. And another word I want to highlight that you shared is feeling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So you talked about self-limiting beliefs. You talked about how can they feel differently. Well, there's 3 things that I teach when it comes to shifting those self-limiting beliefs into self-accelerating beliefs, right?
Yep.
The financial conversation can be 2 things. It can be depreciating, or it can be appreciating.
Right.
Now, how do we shift that? Feeling, belief, result. You see, I can share with you every IQ strategy, every how-to. Here's how to make money. And if I give you a formula for how to make money, right? Is that going to lead to your happiness?
No.
Exactly. Why not? Why do you think it doesn't?
Because it's not handling my emotions,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not as a form of self-expression. It's what can happen a lot in different forms, which is we can end up being lost in someone else's vision.
Yes. Yes.
And then we end up losing ourselves in the process. Right?
Yes. This is so powerful. Keep going.
And so here we are with this self-limiting belief that someone else has got to tell me who I am. And where did that come from? It didn't necessarily have to come from my household. It could have come from the community I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, it could be layered messaging as well, because when I hear it somewhere else, I'm more susceptible to being exposed to it or internalizing it from another source, right?
Totally.
You ever buy a red car, for example, and then you've never owned a red car before, but all of a sudden, all you see are red cars?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? There's actually, psychological, there's studies around it, right? That show that that's what we do. right?
Right.
That's how
Ridiculous.
we're wired,
Yeah.
right? This is no different,
Yeah.
right? We just haven't been taught to prioritize ourselves in the conversation. And so when you connect to your story, right?
Right.
You're actually starting with the way you feel. So if I'm feeling lost, there's my trigger to know, there's my light switch, right? To know, okay, why? Not how am I feeling lost? I'm starting with the why questions. Why am I feeling lost? So now I've recognized something. Now I'm going to start to connect to it at its source, right? So now I'm going to go to my pyramid of financial influences to say, where is this coming from? Right?
Yeah.
And as I connect to that, I'm connecting with the most valuable person. You're connecting with the most valuable person. With you, you're starting and continuing from the inside out, right?
Yes.
So you're acknowledging the way that you feel and that those feelings that have been repeated that form a belief system, right? So there's your perspective, there's your belief system. Now you can understand emotionally and intellectually the results. I'm feeling lost. Oh, now I understand why I'm feeling lost. Now comes the best part. What are you going to do about it? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, we can work through anything that we can understand. The thing is that when we haven't had the opportunity to connect to it, to prioritize it, well, how can we have the opportunity to work through it? That's why our conversation today is so meaningful, because now we can introduce an idea that prioritizes each person as an individual, the way they feel, what they believe, so that they can change the game in the results moving forward.
I love you.
I love you.
I do. And you know what? I want everybody to just like listen to you over and over and over again, because like everything that you're saying is incredible wisdom. And most people they don't know it. They just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. A lot of people don't understand universal law. They don't understand about going within. They only know the outer world. But what you're talking about, and so many people are so tied to money, they feel that that's going to be the answer to everything. But when they have your answer to everything, then they have a successful life in every realm. Really quick, to give an example in my life of what you're talking about, I grew up in a household that was fantastic. I love my parents, my sisters, and I'm the oldest cousin. It was just, it was great till I hit 5. Okay, it was me, my twin sisters, and like I said, I was having a baby cousin every other day, and it was just very exciting and a lot of fun. When I hit 5, I started kindergarten. And I was introduced to, from my kindergarten teacher, you should be ashamed of yourself. I speak about this all the time. You should be ashamed of yourself. And I'm just coloring a chick for Easter. Why should I be ashamed of myself? It's not yellow enough. She was very into negative reinforcement, into putting you down, I guess, for whatever reason it was. But that stayed with me. And then first grade, I had a teacher, and this is back in like the early 70s, where they got away with this stuff. I had a teacher who used to literally beat me for talking to my friend Charlie, who sat next to me. So not only was I introduced to you should be ashamed of yourself, I was getting hit for speaking. So the outer world became everything to me, because I had to make sure that I fit what the outer world wanted from me. My mother went up to the school and told the teacher, my daughter better never come home with another mark on her body again. My parents did what they needed to do, but it stayed with me. And that's what the outer world did, to me at a young age. So when I got cancer at 25, I had enough time during that 2.5-year protocol. I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoblastic lymphoma. And basically in 1991, very few people lived at that. But I read all the personal development books, all the personal and professional development books. I was like that chick, Rhonda, from the beginning of the movie, The Secret, where I could not get enough of the books, the cassette tapes, everything. And then that opened me to the whole inner world, and I became aligned with who I truly am, and fearless fearless, and then later on, I went through a divorce, and then that's a financial, I call it a financial hemorrhage. You're probably like, don't ever say that again. But at that time, I felt like it was. But it also opened up another blessing in disguise, even though it was devastating. It opened up an opportunity for me to start my own. Well, I had a business, but grow it like incredibly. And when I said to you earlier, if you said $1 million to me, I was like, whoa, like that was for the men in my neighborhood. That was for like my father and those guys and the men in Garden City. Like I didn't see too many women, cranking out $1 million until just a couple of years ago. But I had to stretch my mindset. And I want you to speak into this, how people can stretch their mindset. Because if you, like lottery winners, they blow it because they just didn't have the mindset to be able to hold on to it. But in stretching my mindset, $1 million is easy. I knew 100,000. I knew six figures was easy years ago, like my whole life. I knew that was easy. But $1 million, I thought was like, and now I know it's easy. Can you explain how people can stretch their mindset to understand that, yes, it can be easy for an abundant mindset, and there's an abundance of everything everywhere. How can they do that?
So $1 million, let's take that number and let's continue the conversation from there. Because what I'd love for your community to ask themselves, when I say $1 million, earning $1 million, how do you feel? So for everyone listening, when I say $1 million, you're earning $1 million. Can you see it? How do you feel about yourself and about that idea?
And how you're earning it.
And how you're earning it. Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel like this is impossible to you? Right? Now, what if you connect with this idea? $1 million is actually neither big nor small.
Right.
It's simply the way we see it. It's simply the way we perceive it. Now, where's that set of perception, and I do mean set because it's not just one, coming from? When we go back into our story, right?
Yes.
Because you see, what if that $1 million seems big because as you ask yourself and connect with yourself in your story, it's because only the men had it. Or it's because only the elite could. You had to have these connections, these things. What if you were the inspiring story? What if you chose something different for yourself? But to choose something different, you've got to know what you're choosing from.
Yes. Yes.
That's how you break that mold that was formed for you to create your own sculpture. That's how.
Yes. I call that a vision. Right, go ahead.
No, sorry. I'm so sorry I missed that. Tell me.
No, I said I call that a vision. Create a crystal clear vision for your life. A crystal clear vision of knowing exactly what you want. Go ahead. This is beautiful.
Now, as you create that vision, sometimes it's as though you're looking through a manual camera. I don't know if perhaps this dates me, but be as it may. If you're, I'll openly admit that I've covered the whites. It's fine.
You and me both. I love it.
So if you're looking through that manual camera, right? When you're first looking through that lens, it's not clear on the first go. You are adjusting it to make it clear. Right. And so as you continue to connect with yourself, as you continue to connect with your story in the most meaningful of ways, you really are bringing clarity to that vision because you're being active in the process. Yes. Getting to know yourself is the best study because it's the study of your life. The person I study the most is myself.
Yes. Best investment.
Best investment. Yes. Because it has a limitless return.
Yes.
Right? Erin,
Yes.
you and I both come from the financial world that has a limited return in many ways. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not bad. It's a part of the picture.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But we could just always accept the idea that that's the way a return is generated. And so we deprioritize ourselves in the story. Right?
Yes.
And then that applies to the $1 million idea.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I'm not starting with $500,000 to create that million. What's your version of success? What's your contribution to this world? What are your gifts? What brings you joy? That's not going to come from someone else's formula.
I love you.
I love you.
I love everything that you're saying.
But I don't just share this. This is what I share because I've experienced against all odds and against the tide. When the world told me I couldn't, I said I can. And not only will I am. Because I believed that I had something to share with others. And just as I believed that for myself, I believe that tenfold for everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, in so many ways, I believe that money is of our most unique forms of self-expression. Because instead of making money, we can start to earn money. When you're earning money, you earn it with meaning. Erin, who can define meaning to you?
Me.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's the one that, yeah, you have to define your own meaning.
Yes.
You have to be aligned with who you truly are to know what your meaning is. And you have to really tap into your God-given gifts,
Yes.
you know, and then monetize them. Make
Yes.
the world a better place because that's what we're here to do.
Exactly. Make the world a better place because that is what we are here to do. We are here to be of contribution, of value to each other. And to truly be of value to each other, we must be true to who we each are.
Yes.
And sorry, please.
No, I was going to say, can you explain the difference about staying in the creative lane and continuing to create your life, allowing everybody around you to show up as the best version of them, you know, as you're being the best version of you, constantly creating your life moving forward, as opposed to the creative lane where people are knocking people down and you know, talking negatively about people and trying to get ahead of them. Where to me, that's such a, I always say, I feel sorry for people that compete with me. I feel sorry for people that compete with anybody, because you're not looking ahead, creating your own world, you know, expanding it. You're looking sideways and then you're going to spin out, you know, as everybody else is moving forward. Can you speak about the differences and how important it is to stay in your creative lane as the best version of you, allowing everybody to show up as the best version of them? It's so important.
Being connected. I love that you're bringing up compete versus create. I love it for so many reasons, because it is ultimately about being in integrity with who you are. When you're creating and truly being authentic to that, you are in integrity with who you are. And, you know, I shared earlier about the fact that, you know, the person I study the most is myself, and the person I answer to the most is also myself. I've got to answer to myself at the end of the day. And so, you know, when it comes to competing, in a lot of ways, that's what we've been taught. Think about your time at school.
Right.
All we're taught is to compete.
Yeah. Yeah. Even at work for the promotion. Yeah.
because that also showed up somewhere. That's what they knew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is the idea of competing. So we've been conditioned, we've accepted that idea without having the opportunity to bring an awareness to it.
A lot of people think it's normal. Like that's what you're supposed to do. And they don't realize how defeating it is in life at the end of the day. So this is really important. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're so right. It is so defeating. And so then what ends up happening? We end up with this self-deprecating talk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it mutes our voice.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot when it comes to the idea of making money, right? So now I'm competing with someone, I'm living someone else's vision, right?
Yes.
It's someone else that I'm consistently comparing myself to, right?
Right.
And so that makes me focus on everything I don't have.
And we know what happens with that.
Exactly.
You'll get stuck there with more of what you don't have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into the financial conversation with everything we don't have, right?
Right.
And that's just going to get amplified, right?
Yeah.
Because
our focus.
Exactly.
Yes.
But instead, when you're focused and true to your gifts, to who you are, to that journey, that beautiful responsibility of a journey, now you're constantly and naturally continuing to grow into creation. Everything else stays in your rearview mirror. It's there. It's not even beside you anymore. It's not even in your blind spot. It's just behind you. Because you're true to your essence. Mm-hmm. Nothing else matters. It's not to say that there won't be other people that are inspired by your essence. It doesn't even matter.
Right.
You're true to your essence and with gratitude, because I believe in something called active gratitude.
Yes.
Right? It's not just that I'm grateful for it. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put it into practice every day. You know, so here's an example of that. So we talk about our gifts and how that's a beautiful responsibility. And I truly believe that. I say it to myself all the time. This is my responsibility.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Erin, if you gave me a gift, how would you feel if I just left it on my desk and I didn't even unwrap it?
Right. It wouldn't be very good. Right. Right.
And so, but when you give me a gift, you've thought about it. And here I am receiving it with so much joy that I'm going to open that. And let's just say it's this pen, right? I'm going to use this every single day. In fact, sometimes there are some in here that like I've just kind of like kept and I look at and I close it. but I use them.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because it means so much to me. It runs out of ink. Cool. I'm going to get an ink replacement. I'm going to get a refill because it means so much to me. Active gratitude.
Right.
It's not just this concept anymore. It's not this passive list that I write, while beautiful and important, amplified through action.
I love that. You just took the whole idea of you have to be in the present moment in gratitude to attract the right people, places, and things to your life. If you're in the present moment in negativity, in any kind of fear, then you'll attract the people, places, and things to you to keep you there. So you want to be in the present moment in gratitude. Now you just took that whole idea that a lot of people don't even realize, but you do now. A lot of people took that whole idea and now to activate it be in action constantly with your gratitude is a beautiful way to put that perfect. It is a thing, it does work. It's part of, like, is there gravity? Yes, things hit the floor. If you're in the present moment in gratitude, your life will be so much better. And now with the active gratitude in action, you just gave it steroids. Now, like now it's that on steroids. And that's a beautiful, beautiful way to continue with the energy that's going on with the gratitude and what you're creating. You are so smart. And oh my God, this time goes so fast with you. And I know that you have a free gift. You have your website. Let me put your website up here. MarthaAdamsMedia.com. And where do they go for the free gift? And what is that? You have resources and stuff there?
Yes, I have lots of absolutely free resources from connecting with your money mindset and tools to help you work through it, to connecting with your financial empowerment. You can take a really fun survey. You can also print the pyramid of financial influences, so that you can have a free printable copy right on your desk. And it's all amplified by the book. It all pairs beautifully with Cleopatra's Riches, so that you can start and continue the conversation.
With that book. I love that book. Love it. And really quick, because I know I wanted to get into this a little bit more, but really quick, if you could tell the story about Cleopatra and you. I love that story. I love it.
Yeah. So, why Cleopatra? Well, growing up, I shared with you earlier that I felt really different, whether that was in my household, whether it was in the community that I grew up in. I certainly grew up in a materially wealthy neighborhood without the matching material wealth. Right. And so, I found my inner connection as my mom would share with me that I was a direct descendant of Cleopatra. My background is Egyptian. And I believed her. I was so excited about it. I was like, yes, here I am, this girl growing up in a small town, right? That is so different. And yet I have the richness of my ancestry. I have the richness of that connection to Cleopatra. And I carried that with me for so many years, Erin. And then I grew up, and I remember the day too, I heard really that every other Egyptian mother tells their daughter that she is a direct descendant of Cleopatra. And I was just like, how? No, because here's the thing, right? I believed it. I internalized it. And so just as I believed and internalized that, I connected to how it served me. And I decided that it was the thing that made me feel special.
Yeah.
That connection was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that richness was from the inside out, the richness of my origin story.
I love it.
And so you truly do get to decide what you embrace and keep to what you embrace and release with gratitude for what you've learned from it.
Yes.
You get to choose.
Yes. And everything, like you were saying in the past, everything is a lesson, and we take it forward. And even the worst possible things that we go through in the valley, it always serves us. I'm doing what I'm doing today because of my cancer diagnosis. I kept defying the odds. I kept living every time the doctors would come in saying I was going to die. And then I went on to have 3 kids that they swore after the 2.5-year protocol would never happen, with no medical intervention whatsoever. So the doctors at Sloan Kettering started having their patients call me at home. So I've been coaching since the 90s, group coaching, because I would get the whole family. We had extensions, like in the, I'm dating myself too. And I'm
right there with you, Erin. I'm right there with you.
The whole family. We're getting everybody through the whole thing. And I did it for free for years. And here I am all these years later. And this is what I do. And I love to do it. Working on Wall Street to me was hard. My aunt was one of the first women traders on Wall Street. And I was so excited to do it. When I got there, it was not the same Not the same experience that my aunt had in the late 80s when I was there. But it was hard. I was doing these power lunches in my early 20s, closing deals with people twice my age, trying to show up so much more mature than I was, trying to just like know it all and it wasn't as like, this is like breathing, and I love it. And I know because I'm fully aligned. And it's the same thing with everybody listening. What you're saying, what Martha is saying, go inside, and find out what is it based on your feelings, what makes you feel good. Do more of that. And I believe based on that, you'll find out what your gifts are, what you're meant to do here, and monetize it, because God wants you to, I say God, whatever your religious beliefs are, wants you to have an abundant life. So, and I have to bring you back on because there's a whole psychology around money and, there's a whole thing that goes on there. But is there anything on your head or your heart that we didn't discuss that you'd like to share? I want to know how people can get in touch with you also.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on the site, there's a contact us page. Feel free to feel welcomed to reach out, and someone from my team will absolutely be back with you. We would love that. And be sure to follow us on socials, right? At Martha Adams Media. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. So please do continue the conversation and join us for this journey. I have two quick things that are on my heart that I would love to share. Three, actually. Sorry. There's the Canadian me. Sorry. Hold on.
All good.
The first is huge gratitude to you, Erin.
For,
of course, yes, for having me. But more than that, for honoring yourself and your gifts and sharing it with others in this as one of the ways that you do that. So I want to express my gratitude to you.
Thank you.
And to everyone listening, money truly is a human experience. And so it is something that you experience far more emotionally rather than solely understanding it intellectually. Yeah. And no matter what your current circumstance is, you are greater than it. You are the richness of your story and the power of your choice. Stay connected with you.
I love it. I love you.
I love you.
And I love how you just wrapped that up. I absolutely love that. It's, and I want everybody to listen to you and definitely contact her. I mean, the resources there are incredible and free. You're so generous. You're so generous with your heart and your knowledge and your wisdom and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for joining us here today on our Life on Track TV show. I'm so excited about this. And everybody will be able to see it. It's going out on Apple TV and Roku and Amazon, all those online streaming TV shows, as well as if you go to lifeontrack.tv, you can sign up there also to see this and to sign up for future episodes as well. And I just started a YouTube channel with this. There's so many ways I can find you. And it's so exciting. Life is so good when we let it be. We let it be. I always say celebrate life and you'll have a life worth celebrating.
So true.
Yes. So thank you again. And that's it. So, all right, everybody, have a magnificent rest of your day. And always remember to live onward and upward. Love you.